In this video, we'll be going through the electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation. Now, by now, you should understand that when food is oxidized, the energy within the food is funneled into the formation of reduced coenzymes such as NADH and FADH2. The purpose of the electron transport chain is to reoxidize these coenzymes, and the free energy obtained from these oxidation reactions is used in the creation, or is used to pump protons from the mitochondrial matrix into the intermembrane space of the mitochondria. The electrochemical gradient created across the inner mitochondrial membrane as a result of this pumping of protons produces the energy for the production of tons and tons of ATP during the oxidative phosphorylation process. And so, to understand the topic of electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation, you should understand that the sum total of NADH molecules produced as a result of glycolysis, the intermediate step, and the Krebs cycle is 10, so 10 NADH molecules subtotal, and 2 FADH2 molecules. Now onto the mitochondrial structure. You should understand that the mitochondria is made up of two membranes. You have your inner membrane, and the inner membrane is folded into structures known as cristae. The space between the inner membrane and the outer membrane is called the intermembrane space, and the space within the inner membrane is called the mitochondrial matrix. And this is where the Krebs cycle occurs. The enzymes or the enzyme complexes involved in the oxidative phosphorylation pathway and the electron transport chain are found within this inner membrane. Let me give you an overview of what happens during the electron transport chain. Right, so this here is the outer membrane. This is this one here, and this here is the inner membrane. Now, as I explained before, the enzyme complexes involved in the electron transport chain are embedded in the inner membrane of the mitochondria. Now, the whole point of the electron transport chain is to produce an electrochemical gradient of protons in the intermembrane space, and this imbalance of protons creates the energy needed for the production of ATP during the oxidative phosphorylation pathway that happens in this enzyme here. More details on that later. So essentially, the transfer of electrons from NADH, or from the oxidized molecules from the reduced molecules producing glycolysis, the intermembrane step, and Krebs cycle. So the transfer of electrons from those molecules lead to the production of energy, which is used to pump protons from the matrix of the mitochondria to the intermembrane space. Now that creates an imbalance in proton gradients. These protons then move down back into the matrix via this protein here. More on that later. And the movement of these protons back into the matrix creates the energy needed to convert ADP and an inorganic phosphate into ATP. Okay, and so that is an overview of what happens during the electron transport chain and the oxidative phosphorylation process. Now onto the details of exactly what happens during these steps.